Hi. Testing, testing. I hope this is working. I hope you guys can hear me, but I am back. And it's been a very, very, very long time. But I wanted to record a client tutorial. So I absolutely love watching these videos. So I wanted to record one of my own. So first I'll start with putting a toner on my client's skin. I'm using the Bobbi Brown hydration toner. I think that's what it's called. It is absolutely amazing. It's a wonderful product. And by the way, this is my sister-in-law. She came over to model for me and she's great. So right now I'm just going to clean up her eyebrows. I'm putting on some Embryolisse. I've been using this stuff for years and still don't know how to say it, but I'm just putting it on and I'm going to just clean up her brows with the razor. Not necessarily like adding an arch or anything, but just cleaning up some stray hairs that's around her brow. This is my first time recording one of these types of videos too, so I was like constantly worried about if I was in focus or out of focus, so you know, you get the point. Alright, so now I'm just cleaning that up with an alcohol wipe. And now I'm getting ready to moisturize with the Tatcha Dewy Skin Moisturizer. It's amazing. I love using it under makeup. I do wear it alone, but it's fantastic under makeup. Okay, so I'm obviously not good at this focusing thing, but I am using the Morphe lip mask. I literally just got this product the other day and it is amazing. Really love it. Definitely gonna keep using it. So again, brows, something I do all throughout the makeup. So what I'm doing right now, I just applied a little bit of powder just so my brow pencil goes on a little smoother, especially since I just put that moisturizer down. And now I am brushing the brow hairs up with the Benefit 24-hour brow set. I believe that's what it's called. It's another amazing product. And now I'm using the Benefit brow pencil. I believe the color of this one is number 4. So now that I have my rough draft of the brows, I'm going to start cleaning them up, and I use the RCMA. This is the Shinto palette, and I use Shinto 2 and Shinto 3. So it's going to look really light on here, but don't worry, it'll look kind of crazy, but you know, it'll all come together in the end. And this is just the rough cut of the brow. So one thing I will say, I do normally always use this product on all of my clients for the brows. It is more of a cream foundation, so it's not like as liquidy as a lot of the concealers that I see, a lot of people use. Sometimes I think it's personal preference. For me, I feel like I can control the creams just a little bit better, but I do use liquids too. So honestly, I never do it the same way, every time. I just kind of, do what I feel like needs to be done at the time. And so, that's what I'm doing here. Now I am going on the top of the brow with the RCMA palette as well, and I'm using Shinto 4 and Shinto 5, which is pretty much her skin tone. Alright, so another absolutely wonderful brow product is the Glossier Brow Flick, and I'm using the color black. I believe I have black and brown. So I normally start off with the pencil, then I go to my Brow Flick in black towards the end of the brow, and then I use the Brow Flick in 4 towards the front of the brow. It's absolutely phenomenal product. Don't know what I would do without it. Alright, so brows still look a little, a little wonky, but it'll come together in the end. One thing, I will say about recording this is, me trying to see the whole entire face, but not being a camera was pretty difficult. So it's definitely wasn't easy trying to record this, but I think it came out pretty good. So right now I am using the Juvia's Place eye primer in the shade 2, I believe. And I'm just putting that all over the brow. This is probably like my second or third time using it, and I do like this product. It's really watery though, so yeah, you gotta be kind of careful so that you don't use too much. It's really, really watery. So now I'm using a invisible powder to set. I'm using the Cosette Beauty invisible powder. Alright, so now I'm finishing off the brow with the Anastasia, okay, forget it. Anastasia brow powder. Alright, so now I'm going in and applying my shadows. So regardless of the look that I do, a lot of the times, the first thing I want to do is just kind of define the crease. And so you probably can't see this color show up, but it just gives me a guide as to where the crease is. And so now I'm going in using a brown shadow at the outer corner. And honestly, I had like no idea what I was gonna do. And so I just, kind of kept adding shadows until I figured something out. Alright, so now I'm using a darker brown shadow on that outer corner, and I'm just going to slowly blend that in. Alright, so now I'm applying my shadow shields. Technically, should have did this at the beginning, but I forgot. So I'm applying them now. I love these. They're amazing. So now I'm using a black eyeshadow and I'm just applying that on the lash line, and then I'm bringing it up slowly into the crease. And when I go towards the inner crease, I pick up a little bit of that brown shadow to help blend that black a little bit. And also, this for me is somewhat of a guide too for where I'm gonna put my liner. So then I just take a very, very, very light brown shadow and just kind of go over everything to blend it. Looks like I'm adding a little bit more of that darker brown shadow on the lid. Okay, and so here I was not going to do a cut crease look, but I wanted to keep the inner corners and the inside of her eyes really light. And so I started off just taking what was left over on that brush that I applied the Juvia's Place eyeshadow primer, and just kind of started to just blend it out. And then at the last minute I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a cut crease, which whatever. So I did start to do that. So that's what you're going to see me do next. So again, this is my first time using the Juvia's Place primer as a product to cut the crease, and I think it was okay. It's a pretty liquidy product, so I was a little afraid that if she opened her eyes it was going to transfer too much on the rest of her eyes, but it was okay. So now I'm just trying to get it as even as possible and trying to take off some of that excess product, since it is a pretty watery product. Now I'm just blending in a little bit of brown eyeshadow into that primer. Alright, now here's where I messed up at. So I started using the white gold pigment from J. LaRue Cosmetics, and I completely forgot to put shadow on the eye. Now, it actually started applying pretty well, and then I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even put, like a base up under it. So now I'm going back with like a beigey toned shadow. And putting that all over the inner portion of her lid. So now I attempted to go back in with that white gold pigment, and it was giving me a little bit of a hard time. So it's not the pigment, it was definitely just me. But I didn't want to use like any like glitter glue or anything. I just wanted to kind of lay it on top, and I'm used to using the vanilla pigment from MAC, and I do something very similar, and I just kind of put it on. But I felt like this pigment would not adhere to the eyeshadow, and it was purely my fault. But so on this eye, what I decided to do is use some of the NYX glitter glue, and see if I can get it to stick a little bit better. And then I remembered that I had this glitter packer from Morphe that I wanted to try, and so that's what I'm using to apply it, and it did do a much better job. And it's such a fine pigment. It's beautiful color. We did have a fan on, so it was kind of like flying around everywhere, but yeah, I did struggle a little bit with this pigment, but next time I use it, I kind of know what to do with it to get it to look how I want it to look. And so now I'm just going in with a little brown shadow, like right above where I placed that pigment, just to kind of define it a little bit more. Alright, so now I am doing a wing. I wanted to give her eyes somewhat of a cat shape, and I'm applying a pretty thick line because I'm going to use really, really big lashes. So I wanted a thicker line. And then that's another thing with this pigment. It gets everywhere. So it was all over my liner. So I believe I did it off camera because, the camera cut off. But I went back over my liner with some black eyeshadow just to, number one, soften it. And, get those particles off of it, because I wanted it to be as black as possible. So now I'm just applying some lash glue to prep her eyes for the lashes. And here we go with them. These lashes are beautiful. I do offer mink lashes to every single one of my clients. I have all different types. I did want to do something a little bit more dramatic for her. Believe it or not, she's like not a makeup wearer. And so when I get people who don't wear makeup and they have really good faces, I'm like, oh, we're going full glam, like lashes to the ceiling. Okay. So, they're really beautiful. So yeah, we had a good laugh about them. So now I'm just applying a little bit more moisturizer. And now I am going in with my foundation. So I do use the Pat McGrath Sublime Perfection Foundation on all of my clients. Absolutely love it. Sometimes I mix it with the Face Atelier, or I'll mix it with the NARS, or the Armani. It is a light to medium coverage foundation, and I prefer light to medium coverage. I do go in with concealers and, powders. And so, I just feel like if I use a full coverage foundation, full coverage powder, full coverage concealer, to me, it's just too much coverage. And I just don't think it's necessary. So, if a client requests super full coverage, we can do that. But I normally talk them out of it. But anyway, so, yep, I am using shades 22 and 24. Oh, it's so pretty. All right, and so one of my all-time favorite tricks is applying foundation as a concealer. And so I use the NARS Natural Radiant. I think that's what it's called. The NARS Natural Radiant. I do use it as a concealer. So that's what I'm applying under her eyes. And I am using the shade Tahoe. All right, so in my kit, I do carry the NARS concealers, Kevin Aquan, Face Atelier, a lot of different ones. But I do prefer the finish of the foundation as concealers. And so every now and then I will still use another concealer, but I just feel like the finish is so much smoother. It blends like an absolute dream, and you'll see just how beautiful and seamless everything looks with the blending. And so what I'm doing now, a lot of times I will just blend the edges, and then I'll wait a little while to blend like directly up under the eyes, because I do want it to be a little bit dry before I do that, because I want that coverage to stay right there. All right, so another thing that I do is I like to use foundations for contour as well. So I'm using the NARS foundation Molly, and I'm mixing it with a little bit of Caracas, I think. So I'm mixing those two. Molly is a pretty dark foundation, and so I don't like to go on too strong. I like to build it as I go, and so I just think using a foundation just looks so much more natural and beautiful, and so I love using a foundation to contour. I do go back in and do powders, and every now and then I'll use a cream foundation as well, or a concealer, but for the most part, this is typically what I'll use, depending on the skin tone as well. All right, so now I'm starting my first round of setting. If you know me, you know I love powder, and the Charlotte Tilbury airbrushed flawless finished powder is my absolute favorite. I carry every single shade in my kit, and I pretty much use every single shade on every single client. So I'm using shade number 2 to set under her eyes. And now I am using shade number 3 just to kind of do a quick set of everything before I start to powder her contour. All right, so now I'm taking the Laura Mercier translucent powder and just putting a little bit under her eyes. Love this powder also. I typically use these in combination. And so I'm going under the eyes. I have her make that face for the creases around the mouth so we can bake those really good. All right, and this is the shade number 4, and I'm going in and I'm setting her powder contour. No, her, where I use the liquid foundation. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, but where I put that liquid contour, now I'm setting it with the Charlotte Tilbury powder in number 4. And so check this out. Her eyes start to water. Now watch this. So she had like an eyelash in her eye, and so it started to water. And this is why I love powder and why using powder is so important. Like, it's everything. So I used a stippling brush just to kind of start to clean it up, and then I get a little bit of tissue, and you see I'm trying to show, my camera didn't focus, but there's absolutely no makeup on that tissue. None at all. You just dab. It's fine. That powder is designed to soak up or to protect the skin from that moisture. So if you ever took some translucent powder and tried to mix it in water, you'll see that it doesn't mix, So, powder is amazing. I love it. So as you see, her makeup is still intact and still there. So now I'm using the NARS blush in Dolce Vita, I believe. and I love blush. I put a lot of it on. And I typically like to apply it pretty high. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And so now I am using that number 3 powder just to kind of blend everything in again. And then I'll also go over it again with the Laura Mercier in the medium deep color. And now I am putting a little shadow under her eyes, going in with that lighter brown color. And now I'm taking the MAC Studio Fix powder in C6, and I'm just, using it to blend in the translucent powder. Alright, so now I'm going back over it again with the number 3 powder from Charlotte Tilbury. And I'm just going all over the face. So now I am wiping off some of the foundation that got on her lips, and I'm getting ready to apply lip liner. So I'm using 2 lip liners. I'm using Chestnut from MAC and Vino from MAC. Now I am applying this lipstick directly from the tube, but it is sanitized. It's Juvia's Place, and I don't remember the color, but I will put it in the description box if I remember what it is. And now I'm taking one of the MAC Dazzle glasses and just putting it in the middle. It's a very white shimmery color. Also don't remember the name, but I'll put it in the description. And now I am spraying with Fix Plus mixed with a little bit of the Tatcha Dewy Luminous Skin Mist. And that's it. That is the finished product. She looks so beautiful.